Hi everyone, last live for the night, and I'll excuse the lighting, it's really shocking. My phone will keep dipping as well, so I'll just wait for the notification to come up to see if anybody's here, and I'm going to leave this here for the night. Anyway, so I want to discuss Compulsory Basics Card, right? Forced Income Management with the Indue Cashless Debit Card versus a Voluntary Income Management program that is government run. So let's go back in time to before the NT intervention and the Howard government's Compulsory Basics Card, right, for the First Nations people. There was a group of Aboriginal women who approached the then Labor government to ask for some sort of card that they could put money on that could cover their essentials and their basic bills, because they were sick of their men taking all of their money. Right? So the then Labor government in the Northern Territory developed something like, it was like essentials cards. Okay, it was voluntary. It came with case management, cooking classes, budgeting classes, supports all wrapped around it, and purely voluntary. Okay, it worked really well for these women. There was other incentives as well. Okay, things like, at the time, Indue weren't the company they are now, and they were the ones that handled the basics card. They couldn't hold more than $1,500 in an account. So these people could save up $1,500 and then they could draw it back out. So I met a lady in Alice Springs, an Aboriginal elder from Alice Springs. I met her in Canberra. She loved her basics card, and I said, why? She said, because I'm on the voluntary program. I came into it when it was voluntary. She got all the supports that were needed at the time, and it enabled her to get away from an abusive relationship. It enabled her to have her money to herself. It enabled her to save up, and she could get that money out, and she could spend it, and she rebuilt her life. All right? That was under the voluntary program. So up until that stage, I had been absolutely no income management of any kind, right? But it wasn't until I spoke to the Aboriginal elder and I realised, hang on a minute, if she's got the right supports around it, someone wants to do it and they can save money and they can actually draw that money back out, and they've got the access to cash out, what's the problem? Right? This woman's life had really changed for the better because it was voluntary, because it had supports, because she could save the money and she could draw the money out, right? She had freedom of choice, autonomy. Then Johnny Howard comes in with the Northern Territory intervention, right, upends everything and makes the basics card compulsory, strips away all of the supports. People can't remove their savings anymore. That buggers everything up, right? Becomes forced income management. Does people's heads in, plays with their mental health. Suicide rates go up. Child mortality rates go up, right? Malnutrition goes up. Everything goes up because the card doesn't work properly, right? And it doesn't work. It fails. Over 12 years, it fails. We have a whole generation of people who have been forced onto the basics card with no supports and an inability to access their savings. And then in 2013, along comes Abbott and Twiggy Forrest with the Cashless Debit Card, or the Healthy Welfare Debit Card as it was then. But even worse, a more draconian card. 80-20 split, forced income management, no choice, no autonomy, right? The insult of you can get $200 every 28 days. But a lot of people, especially First Nations people, can't get that. They just get denied access to it. All right? We've seen so many people suffer under this forced income management regime and program. But Indue, the cashless debit card, is privatised. It's for profit for stakeholders and a big, large company to make money off of. So it got really bad. A long way from its beginnings of a voluntary card to help people if they wanted to use it. So the argument now, right, is that Labor is going to scrap the cashless debit card and they're going to scrap compulsory income management. Okay? They now support a voluntary income management program. Now, I was on Milindari McCarthy's page today, on the post that we shared to the page today. If you go to her page and read the comments, somebody asked her straight up, will you be scrapping the basics card? And she said yes, right? Because it's also provided by Indue. And they're cutting all ties. They're scrapping the privatised model and they will formulate another voluntary income management program run by Centrelink. We don't know what that is at the moment. It could be just manipulating how you use CenterPay, which would be the logical thing to do in the first place, because CenterPay is there. I use CenterPay myself for my rent, for my electricity, for my gas. So much easier. I chose to do that. I had the autonomy and the freedom to choose to do that. Okay? And it makes life so much easier. My electricity bill this quarter is $19 because I chose to utilise CenterPay as a service that was offered to me, right? Not a form of income management like the Liberals would try and use it as. But that could be one option. I don't know. But, you know, I'm just trying to clarify things here for people. Excuse my lighting. It's shocking. I'm trying to get... I hate it when this camera does this. You know what I mean? That's better. God knows what's going on. Anyway, so what I'm trying to say is I've just seen on another page that shared our meme about why isn't ALP speaking publicly, and ALP saying it's going to scrap the cashless debit card and make income management voluntary. And their comment was, no, Labor, it must be abolished completely. Now, I used to think like that until I met that elder from Alice Springs. And I had a thought, what is this all about? It's about autonomy. It's about autonomy. It's about a freedom of choice. Hang on. We're going to do something with this. I'm going to go change it. That's better. Right? It's about self-determination. It's about making your own decisions. So, who am I to turn around and say to that elder in Alice Springs, no, you can't use an income management program? What right have I got to say no? What right have I got to say no to that person? I don't. A long while back, we posted a protest from an Aboriginal community. On their signs, it said they wanted choice. Listen to us. We want choice. That's what they wanted. They wanted to keep the basics card and not change to the cashless debit card. They made it very clear, no cashless debit card. A lot of them wanted to keep their basics card. A lot of them wanted the choice to say no more basics card. Labor have listened to that. I had lots of arguments in the past with Labor about this, and I didn't even understand what they were talking about when they would turn around and say to me, but we've got people who want it. They want to keep it. What do we do with those people? We can't crush their self-determination and their autonomy, right? So there has to be a balance. There has to be a compromise. Now, the Greens would disagree completely because they've always been no income management. And the way that it came about, especially with the anti-intervention and LNP making it compulsory, should never be in legislation. And that sort of legislation needs to be repealed. But we cannot interfere with someone else's self-determination, autonomy and choice. Right? And they're asking for a program that's not the cashless debit card, that's not a forced income management program, but they want something on the table that is an income management program that they can use if they choose. then come off of it too, you know what I mean? We would be hypocrites if we don't listen. That's the bottom line. We would be hypocrites if we don't listen. Because this fight has been about the loss of autonomy, the loss of your human rights, the loss of your self-determination, the loss of your choices. So we have no right to turn around and say to others that want an income management program of some sort, no, you can't have it, because we oppose forced income management. That's the difference. Forced third-party income management is what Indue Cashless debit cards are, and now Basics Card. But the difference with the Basics Card is Indue are only the provider of the card. They don't actually have anything to do with running of the Indue, that program. But getting rid of the privatised model is a must. Because at the moment, they're doing anything and everything in their power to make people activate cards, contract with that company, because that's the only way they make money. Why do you think they don't want to let Mahalia off the card? They don't want to let the lady in Kalgoorlie, right? They want her to activate her card because they can't get paid until she does. The for-profit has to come out of it. So the only way to do that is it has to go. And this is what Labor are saying they're going to do, is scrap it and get the for-profit out of it. Pull it back under government control, where it's not privatised, where people aren't making money off of other people's misery, right, by having them under forced income management. And have a program where people can utilise a different program. I don't have a problem with that. And the only compulsory aspect that would come into it would be if it's under a child safety issue. That is common sense. Right? That is common sense. We can't argue about that if someone has to go to court and then it's advised that they go on income management for the protection of their children. Right? We can't argue against that. And I don't know anybody who could. At least those people are going to get a day in court. The people on the card now don't get their day in court, don't get any assessment. It arrives in the post. Money gone to Indue. You know what I mean? And I don't know, we're having to really reinforce this. ALP are going to scrap the cashless debit card and they're going to scrap compulsory income management. Isn't that what everybody wanted? They're going to get it. I don't see why we've still got the nitpickers. I mean, this is a different page, has shared our meme and gone, no, it must be abolished completely. And this is a very left-wing page it's been sent to. So I've just said to him, what right do you have to decide for someone who wants to use an income management program voluntarily to say no to them? We don't have that right. Because by doing that, then we're just not as bad as what this government is, taking away the rights of people who want their autonomy and their self-determination. We're doing it again to people who want to use a program like that. What do you think, guys? Do you know what I mean? If somebody wants to use a program like that, and it's not going to disadvantage them, and it's not going to take away their human rights, and it's not going to put them outside the law. They're still protected by all of our laws, consumer laws, privacy, statutory rights. Everything's put in place to protect their rights. And they're not excluded from the Protections of Payments Act under the Social Security. They're still all covered by our laws and all covered by human rights. Then what's wrong with that? A person has the right to say yes or no themselves. We have listened to Linda Burney over and over and over again when she stands up in the Senate and she says Labor supports an informed consent voluntary income management program. Right? Which means that there would be case workers, there would be support workers, you could probably just walk into a Centrelink and say, can I go on income management for a while? I need a bit of help. Go and see that person, get financial counselling, get some supports. You know what I mean? Whole different situation compared to Compulsory Basics Card, Compulsory Cashless Debit Card, privatisation. You know? It's just driving me nuts what's going on here. Sufi. Yeah, I agree. The apathy is kind of driving me nuts today. People know the LNP will roll the card out, yet still screech that Labor might not scrap it, despite their very many published promises. And if it happened, you have opposed forced income management. Why would you not choose a chance to get rid of this program over a certainty it was going to get rolled out everywhere to all pensioners, etc., etc.? That's exactly right. Why would you take the risk? The option is everybody loses their rights, their human protections, their legal rights under law. Everybody's under the boot of a private company. That is the alternative, right? Everybody gets owned by a private company, and the private company gets to own that 80%, right? You know, the difference with a voluntary income management program is it is controlled by the government, not a private agency. Their money's not given to that private agency. You know, anyway, it's just driving me nuts how many people just don't believe the Labor will scrap it. It's taken 6 years to get this far, and like the minute they actually stand up and say, right, we're not supporting this at all anymore, and even though they've proved it over and over again by voting against it over and over again, right? I know the Greens don't believe the same. They want all forms of income management gone. You know, there's a certain amount of this that's going to need to be, we would like to see repealed, but Labor need to be in power first to do it. They can't do it from opposition. They need to be in power first. You know, people need the right to say, no, I don't need to be income managed. That's it. You know, people need the right to choose. And this is what those people from the Aboriginal community were saying in their rallies. We want the right to choose, which is what anybody wants. The autonomy and the self-determination to make your own bloody decisions without a third party interfering or having to beg permission or ask or go to Centrelink and beg or go to Indue, ring up CDC staff and beg. People don't want that. Anyway, that's just me trying to give you guys a bit of a history lesson and a bit of a perspective, because some people just don't get it. They don't understand this voluntary income management side of it. All right? But we would be hypocrites, right, if we were to deny people the choice. When we've been fighting for people to have choice and autonomy and self-determination all the way along. Nobody wants to be treated like a child, right? People want their self-determination back so that if there's a program available that they want to use, they can use it, right? If they don't want to use it, they don't have to use it. And like the only time that you would see something like that imposed would be through a court order or child support, a child endangerment issue. Do you know what I mean? In order for a family to be able to stay together, okay, hypothetically, you've got a family that's got addiction issues, okay, and a court turns around and says, right, that family needs to be on income management so that they make sure the kids are getting fed. and that sort of thing, right? And the parents are getting the supports they need for their addiction issues. You can't argue with that. The thing with the privatised model, you see, the government's gone at it with, we're all addicts, we're all bad parents, and we're not. Okay? And it's been exposed now. It's about quotas now. It's about getting as many signed up as possible for Indue to make as much money as possible. That's all it's about. Not about a person with addictions getting the supports that they need for their family. You know? No one wants to be treated like a child, and this system treats everybody like a child. Worse, as a criminal. Because it takes away the rights that criminals get to keep. You know, and that's the difference. Criminals get to keep all of these rights that are removed under this current system. Nobody should be losing their human rights or their self-determination or their legal rights, capacity, fiduciary rights, the works. You know? Imagine if they threw all that money they were giving into Indue into programs for addiction. Maybe if they split half the money and gave everybody a raise in the rate, right, lifted the payments up to a livable level as well, and then put the rest of the money into addiction services, DV services. The money that's been wasted, $310 million that we can see so far, and now all of the costs are not for publication. And they've never revealed the cost for Hinkler or Kalgoorlie. That's always been under commercial in confidence. You know, so all that money wasted that could have gone into services, instead they've cut emergency housing, they've cut domestic violence services in the Northern Territory. They've cut a massive, it didn't need a lot of money. It was only $1.2 million to keep going, but it was a healing service for domestic violence survivors. Aboriginal Domestic Violence Service and Healing Centre, and they only wanted to keep their $1.2 million. But no, give $44 million more to Indue and shut down that healing and domestic violence service by defunding it. Why? Everywhere they go with the cashless debit card, they defund the public services and the support services and the mental health and the DV and the housing. Undermining everything, right? Taking away the foundation of every support service, putting in this draconian bloody for-profit measure, driving people into homelessness, mental health decline and suicide. And no supports. Meanwhile, it's not even targeted at people with addictions anyway. It's just a smoke screen. That's all it ever was a smoke screen. To get the people on side. We don't want our tax dollars wasted on alcohol and drugs. The thing is, the majority of the people that are on the cashless debit card don't drink to excess and don't use drugs. And we all pay tax as well. You know, the housing limit is the money you can spend on rent, mortgage or board. Yeah, but that's if you can get it approved in the first place. And then it gets reset to zero every 6 months. Or it depends. There's lots of people who seem to find that their rent is resetting every month and they can't pay their damn rents. You know, people end up weeks and weeks and weeks behind. I've got another person up here 4 weeks without being able to pay rent. And they're saying, oh, we can do you a temporary rent. Well, that's no good. They've got to pay rent every fortnight, not just one here and one there out of the blue. And run people weeks and weeks behind in rent. Yeah. No, need a proper system. And the only way you do that is to, you know, so you can't pay cash rent on these cashless debit card because you can't get the cash out. So it's ridiculous setup that they've got set up, and it sets everybody up to fail. And that's what it's designed to do. Everybody's reduced to being a pauper because they've only got 20% fiscal worth in their bank. And no, that's not the way to go. So I support what Labor's putting forward because it's common sense. You know, it's common sense. And it goes with what First Nations people have been asking for all along is Listen to us. We want choice. We want self-determination. Now, let's get something very clear. In Ceduna, Aboriginal Corporation down there supports the cashless debit card and wants it. And they like the funding they get from the government for having it as well. Okay? They made the decision for their people. What do? You can't just rip it off of them. So, you shut down the privatised model and get the profiteers out of it. The vultures, right? The leeches that are making money. And you offer them something that their people can volunteer for. That is government run, has Senate oversight, right? Can be audited and investigated and checked out. And senators can ask questions. And the public servants are accountable. I think that's a better system. We tried to ask for an independent body that card holders could go to with their complaints. But of course, Services Australia were never going to provide that. So, but at least with what Labor's proposing, people will have a voice. They will have the choice. And you'll find a lot of people straight away, the basics card will be going out the window. You know, if it's gone, you know. Oh my God. The PM last year spent $83,000 on wine. $83,000 on wine. Now, if that's not hypocritical, I don't know what is. And that's taxpayer money. Yeah, oh my God. I won't tell you what thought just went through my head. You know, there they are, pissing up $83,000 worth of taxpayers' money on expensive wine while dictating to 13,000 people that you can't have a beer at the pub with your meal. Oh, isn't that hypocritical? Dear oh dear. I don't know what Labor's new idea of voluntary income management will be. All I know is that if the LNP are in, the cashless debit card gets rolled out to everybody. Okay? And everybody loses out. If Labor get in, Indue's gone. The people that are on the Indue card are free. Right? 23,000 people in the Northern Territory get a choice. The basics card's gone. There's 40,000 people get freedom and choice back straight away. And the ability to make their own decisions as the adults that they should be able to. That brings back dignity as well. That's a big thing. Anyway, I'm going to go. That's my little rant. That's my last rant for the night. It came about because somebody shared one of our posts and started going on about, no, it must be abolished completely. No, we're not switching from one side of, we're fighting against the removal of autonomy and self-determination and choice. That's what we've been fighting all this time for, is to stop that. We can't interfere if someone wants help or they feel that that's what they want. We just don't know what their new program will look like or what it will be. But it was refreshing to see that comment where somebody asked Senator Milindari McCarthy on her page, will you be scrapping the basics card? And she answered yes. All right, and I have a screenshot of it, which I can add into the comments here. Okay, but you can go and find the comment on her page anyway. She answered straight up. So the basics card's going as well. Indue's going out the window. Bye-bye privatisation of social security payments. Let's bring that money back into this country and keep it in our reserve bank and pay social security payments properly. Right? Simple as that. So, Yeah, so anyway, I'm going to go because it's late now, and yeah, I've had my save for the night. I'm stuffed, I'm tired. So I'm just looking comments here. The comments are all up and down. I don't know which way they're going. Oh dear. Yeah, so anyway. Alright, night guys. Enjoy your cup of tea, Sophie. And I'll talk to you guys tomorrow or whenever on the next update on what we've got. Okay? Alright. Night.